Welcome to the Modernize or Die Podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the Cold Fusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome to the Modernize or Die Podcast, CFML News Edition. It is June 27th, 2023, and we're up to episode 199. Are you ready, Brad? Big 200's right on the corner.
199. We are on the precipice of episode 200, as they would say.
Yep, we almost had 199 last week, but we decided there was too much fun happening at CF Camp, so we decided to wait for you guys to come back and tell us all about it. But
we held back for your good. We knew you couldn't handle it.
Yep, I know. My parents were still here. They didn't leave until after the conference, so that's why I didn't make it this year. I was hoping to make it, but, got to see the parents when they're in the country, so next year.
Understandable.
Yep. Next year, I'm hoping that we can change that. But for those who don't know, I'm Gavin Pickin, Senior Developer at Auto Solutions, and you are Brad Wood, another Senior Developer at Auto Solutions. Whatever the title of the day is, right, Brad? Because you wear many hats.
Yep, that's right.
Cool. Well, let's get into this. Thanks to those saying hi in the chat. So first up, let's thank our sponsor, Auto Solutions. So they're the makers of ColdBox, CommandBox, ForgeBox, TestBox, and all the other boxes out there. And there's a few ways you can say thanks back to Auto Solutions that are free, and there's a few that are paid too. But you can like and subscribe to our videos on YouTube. Hopefully you're watching in the chat, checking us out online and live. So like and subscribe, and you get those little notifications. Also, we have a little command box tool that helps you start and fork all the repos from your dependencies in your app, so please use that, and we'll share that in the show notes and in the chat. And then we also have the podcast. Obviously, you're listening to the podcast, or watching the podcast, maybe.
If you are hearing this, chances are you know about the podcast.
So help us with the podcast by subscribing on your podcast player or your podcast app, and leave a review. The reviews do help get more attention to it, and we want to spread the word about Cold Fusion and this podcast, so please help us do that. And then there are free and paid accounts up on CFcast, which release great training content every week. And it's not just box stuff. There's a whole bunch of general Cold Fusion and even just programming stuff related to Cold Fusion up there on CFcast. And the Box Life store, you can buy some cool swag, auto swag from the Box Life store. So check that out. And then we got some books, right, Brad?
We do have some books. We have the 102 ColdBox HMVC, Quick Tips and Tricks, which is available on Gumroad, as well as our Learn Modern Cold Fusion, CFML, in 100 plus minutes.
Yep.
Those are both available. The second one could be an ebook or a paper copy.
And we will one day, using AI, transform Brad into a 102 ColdBox, command box quick tips and tricks book, but we haven't done it yet. So we're gonna get the subscriptions, AI, the stuff done, and we'll turn that into a book one day. That's gonna be like the running joke forever, probably. But maybe we can release it. We can do a 103 and say fooled ya. Anyways, well, let's jump into news and announcements. So CF Camp, I heard, was a blast. You want to give us some feedback?
CF Camp was amazing. It was amazeballs. So yeah, I'm still recovering from CF Camp, as I was just talking to Gavin as we were getting ready. I told him I didn't know if I really fully adjusted to the new time zone, but by the time I came home to readjust. But CF Camp just got done in Freising, Germany, which is just north of Munich, and it was fantastic. We had a lot of people there. It was a little bit lower attendance than the last CF Camp, which I think everybody expected. I was afraid that there may be like really low attendance just because, after all the lockdowns that went on even longer in parts of Europe than they did in the US, people might be reticent to come. But there was a really solid crowd. I think Mishi said we had about 130 people, which was fantastic. I mean, it didn't feel empty at all. Our keynote room was packed. I almost had to stand in the back because I came in late. So, all the people over there in Europe that I haven't seen since like 2019, I was able to see the sessions were packed. It was funny. I don't know why it is, but almost nobody, and this isn't a bad thing. It's a funny thing. Almost nobody stayed out in the hallways during the sessions. If I was kind of hanging out at the sponsor booth, like when they'd be like, "All right, we're starting the session," like everybody would like swoop into the rooms and it would just be empty in the hallway. Because people all wanted to just see all the sessions. They were super excited about the content, and there was a bunch of really good sessions. Um,
Yeah.
so
Well,
yeah,
those
I mean,
European attendees haven't had, the CF summits and all those other ones into the boxes like we have lately. We've had
I
after COVID a couple of years now of those events,
yeah.
and they've been just waiting and waiting. So yeah, they just wanted to absorb it all, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. So I mean, the restaurant there at the hotel is just really great. They're open late. You can hang out in the bar. The food they have at CF Camp was just freaking awesome. I mean, it was just ridiculous. I love the food there. It's like every morning there was this massive spread with like sausages and cheese and smoked salmon. They had this giant like Nutella container on tap. You'd push a button and it would dispense 15 grams of Nutella right onto your plate. And then they had this like chunk of honeycomb that you could just like scrape like fresh honey out of. And of course, the big Bavarian pretzels and potatoes. I'm hungry already. But yeah, the food is absolutely excellent at CF Camp. I love it every time. And it's the only Cold Fusion conference that has a fish option every lunch. Every single lunch there was fish. Um,
Very cool.
but I mean, it was just fantastic. I brought a Chiefs, NFL Chiefs hat for Mishi to help him celebrate the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. He likes sports and stuff. I asked him if he was going to try to get a ticket for when the Chiefs play in Munich this year, and unfortunately, I saw it the day the tickets sold out in 5 minutes for
That's
the NFL
crazy.
game in Frankfurt. And there was like millions of people in line, so I'm guessing he did not get a ticket to go see that. But anyway, yeah, I mean, catching up with everybody was amazing. It was a really good conference, and it was like just so good to be back
Yeah,
in Germany with all that crowd again.
yep, and obviously, if you guys want to see more, go check out the Twitter feed for CF Camp hashtag. I saw a few I just put in the show notes here. So, like Alex Wells said, back home from the trip to CF Camp 2023, had such an amazing event, such great talk, such amazing community. Gives me another reason why I simply love Cold Fusion. So shout out to all those responsible, and see you next year. And I like the one of the tweets that Michaela posted from Zach when Zach Spitzer was doing his talk. He's apparently Zach explained it's all Misha's fault. There you go. It makes sense now. There's a few of the Benadell fan photos out there. Zach got one with him, and I think AJ Mercer got one as well. And so awesome.
Yeah,
But
Mishi had a photo booth, like a paid thing that was set up. It had like a camera and a flash and a big background, and you could go stand and push a screen, and it would take a picture of you, and then it would print out a picture like right there. And then of course it saves a digital copy as well.
yeah,
So everybody was taking pictures with Ben Nadell and everybody in front of that photo booth this year.
yep. They've got a link where the pictures and videos will be posted later, so you guys have to check that out. But super cool. And I don't know who else is on the conference team, but I know, like you said, Mishi and Kai were big members and big contributors to make.
Chris Well, yeah, so Christopher Schmitz and Michael Nat, I think they largely organize a bunch of the stuff, and then Kai Koenig as well does a whole bunch of the content stuff for them. I think those three people are the main ones.
So yeah,
Um,
so great job, guys.
and there was really solid sponsorship showings as well. Just to throw it out there, we had the Pixelate guys who make Reside CMS. So Dom Watson, Alex Skinner was there. DistroKid was a big sponsor and had a giant banner, though they didn't have like a table or a booth or anything. But DistroKid is like a really like large website for distributing music, and they all run on Cold Fusion and Lucy. And like Gert Frowns, Misha Offner, Igal Sapir, not Mike, Mark Drew, like they all work for DistroKid. And
And
so
Matt
there was a
Gifford
bunch
does
of,
too, I think.
oh yeah, that's right. My gosh. I'm actually visualizing the DistroKid banner that was across from the Ortus booth, and I'm remembering what the name said across the bottom.
Okay.
There was a Fusion Reactor, David Tattersall was there. There was an Adobe booth, but no Adobe, and t-shirts and stuff, but nobody from Adobe was able to come out. I heard that they had marketing like travel budgets cut, so they weren't able to actually come out in person. Ortus Solutions was obviously there. There was a Coding Asia uh like banner that I is some company in like Vietnam area or something I'd never heard of. That's super cool. They were sponsoring. TerraTech was
Yep.
there. Paul from at the CFLI podcast. I had never met him. I didn't realize he was in Europe. That was really cool. Meeting him. Um, I know there was a couple other sponsors that
Yes,
are.
Tumba said they were
Oh,
there.
Toomba, yeah. Sander was there. My gosh, had dinner
Yeah,
with him. Yeah, Toomba's a big one. Anyway, yeah, it was. Oh, and I guess Raja Switzerland. Dan Card's helping me out by putting some in the in the chat here. Raja Switzerland was also
oh,
there.
Massa
Oh,
CMS.
Massa.
Yep.
Yeah, the Massa CMS. Well, Massa. I don't know how you pronounce it. Goost was there, and a bunch of other people. There was there was quite a lot of sponsors. It was pretty good. So
Yeah.
I told Mishi I thought it was a smashing success. Oh, Foundeo. Jeez. Pete did not make it to give a session, but Foundeo was a sponsor. Yeah, there was a I thought it was a fantastic success as far as the sponsors and the people on the sessions. Um,
Very
it was
cool.
crazy.
Yep, I will make it there before they shut it down, like Scotch on the Rocks. I swear. As soon as I was actually going to go, they shut it down. So,
Yeah, I never made it to Scotch and the Rocks either, unfortunately.
yeah. Well, guess we should get on with the rest of the podcast. But the CF Camp show will return next year, and we'll have lots of fun. Hopefully, I can make it there, and we can have a great time. This time we'll book a little earlier on our tickets, right, Brad? So we don't have to worry about all the ticket hikes at the last minute.
Yeah, the prices get crazy late. My family was going to come with me last week, but the ticket prices just doubled right as we were about to buy them. So we're all going to go. My family and I are going to go back in August to Germany. We pushed our vacation back to where the tickets were doable.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's get on to it. So, Cold Box Roadshow is running on the Orders blog right now. So, if you guys hadn't noticed, there's a bunch of new content. So, we're basically having a little roadshow, lots and lots of blog content on Cold Box 7 right now. So, 3 already out there. So, we've got Daniel Garcia, 5 benefits of using Cold Box REST. Cold Box to build your REST API. Grant Copley did one on Cold Box application templates. Alan Quinlan did one on async your future with Cold Box 7. And John Clausen has one coming out, I think, later today called Delegates, the Lightning of Empowered or of Empowerment with Coldbox 7. So lots of cool content there, and basically more coming your way. And then I think it's July 3rd is the last Coldbox one, and then we're going to start doing Command Box Pro stuff, right, Brad? So a whole bunch of
You say
sessions.
so.
Yeah.
I didn't plan any of it, but it sounds fantastic.
Yep. So we got all the different team members from Ortus sharing their little bits and pieces that they like about the new releases from Coldbox 7 and then Command Box and 5X and some of the Pro features too. So we'll tell you more about that. But speaking of conferences, CF Summit's coming up fast and Ortus training is ready to go, right, Brad?
That's right. We got a Cold Box Zero to Hero happening before the Cold Fusion Summit
After.
in Vegas. Oh, sorry. After Cold Fusion Summit in Vegas. So October 4th through 5th. So it's a 2-day workshop. Yep. Is that what I'm seeing here?
Yep.
So it looks like Luis and Gavin are going to be the leaders for that. So it's going to be in Las Vegas at the Regis. It's going to be the venue. So it's just a few blocks away from where the Cold Fusion Summit conference happens.
Yep. So the early bird price for those tickets are $4.99. You got about 6 weeks to get them at that price, and then getting closer to it, they're going to go up to the regular price of $6.99. We did a lot of work with lots of venues, so we got one that was in the reasonable range because all the prices just keep doubling every year. So ridiculous. The place we had at the Aria a few years ago, Brad, has basically gone up like 600% since then.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was not cheap at the time, and it's not even unlike ridiculous. Well, unless you want to pay $5,000 a day or something, it's ridiculous.
God bless Adobe, all the money they're putting in to make CF Summit still be affordable for us because they're seeing the same price increases. They're just absorbing it. On our behalf.
Yeah. I mean, again, we were going to try to get some at the Mirage, but there's, all sorts of minimums and everything else, and we just didn't want to, have those prices. So the cool thing is, though, is we are at the Regis, so it's a nice little venue. It's 2 miles from the Mirage. You can walk if you want to from the Mirage. It's next to the Marriott Hotel. It's a 2-minute walk from there. It's only 1 mile to Top Golf, so we have to go check that out. It's only about a 20-minute walk. And it's less than 5 minutes to Fogo de Chão's, the Brazilian steakhouse. Less than 5 minutes to Starbucks. and less than 5 minutes to Lolo's Chicken and Waffles if you want to go chicken and waffles in the morning. So win,
I
win, win,
am not
win.
familiar with Lolo's Chicken and Waffles. Is this like a Nevada thing or?
I don't know about the Lolo's brand, but I mean, I hear a lot of people saying chicken and waffles for breakfast is awesome, and I've never done it.
I mean, I've
It's
heard that as like a southern thing. Like you
yeah,
go to
but
like Georgia and you get, fried chicken and waffles, but
so I was like, it's right there, so I'm
yeah.
gonna have to try that for breakfast one of these days and see what it's like. So
Here's the website, Lolo's Chicken and Waffles, and it describes itself as homemade Southern soul food. So yeah, it's in the style of the South. Yeah, I've
so
never had it. I've never had chicken and waffles. So maybe you and I are gonna go check that out.
sounds good to me. So I shared the link there. Go get your ticket. We want to, confirm, get all the numbers in, and get ready for that. So that is coming up soon. Excuse me as well. Okay, so next up, we have new releases and updates, and I will let you talk about this because you were there. So at CF
Yeah.
Camp, Lucy released a couple of things. So we got a stable release of Lucy 5.4 and a
Mm-hmm.
release candidate for Lucy 6, right?
Yeah, so Lucy has just been going crazy with the releases. We have an automatic integration that whenever Lucy builds a new release, a little job just kicks off automatically on GitHub Actions and it publishes it to ForgeBox. That way you guys can test it just basically within minutes. And so we get a little message in Slack every time Lucy pushes a release because it shows it published into ForgeBox. And the last like 2 weeks have just been like ding 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 ding, just like releases scrolling past every day. They've been going crazy. So the 5.4 stable release is going to be, fingers crossed. They said this about 5.3, but it's going to be the last release of the 5 series of Lucy. So that's going to be the LTS or long-term support release. And then the next release should be very soon, Lucy 6.0. And outside of any maybe major security things that come up that might need to go into 5.4, Lucy 6 is going to be everything going forward. There were some questions recently in some of the Lucy forums about why is Lucy still spending time on the 5x releases when they're trying to get 6 out the door. And the reason basically is the LTS, the long-term support releases that Lucy offers, just like Ortus does, where 6.0 is going to be a lot of breaking changes. So if that's too big of a jump for you to get to, you're not going to get screwed, hung out on some 5.3 or 5.4 version without any bug fixes. So the reason they changed from 5.3 to 5.4, because 5.3.10 was the last 5.3 series, was basically because Lucy will do breaking changes in what we call a minor increment based on how they do their semantic versioning. And in the 5.4, they finally addressed, I believe, all of the known CVEs, the vulnerabilities that exist in all the third-party libraries and jars across all the extensions. And part of that was doing some major upgrades to some of those Java libraries that, was a big jump for them. And I think they actually removed a couple extensions from the core. Some of the stuff that like nobody uses, like Flash or whatever. And, I don't know if that's actually one of the examples, but there's some of those that like nobody used. They're really outdated, and they actually pulled those. And so some slight breaking things, which is why it's a minor slash breaking bump. But 5.4 should be really stable. It should be able to pass all of your security scans. I mean, there used to be just like hundreds of little vulnerabilities that technically existed in all these libraries, and they've gone through and addressed all that. So if you can't get to 6, you should be able to sit on 5.4 for a while as the long-term support release. But the 6.0 release candidate is looking really good from our perspective. When Zach asked people to raise their hands in the keynote, and who else tested Lucy 6, only about 3 or 4 hands went up, I think. And so Zach yelled at us all and told us that if you guys don't test it, then we don't know if it's stable, which is absolutely right. So we have Lucy 6 passing on pretty much all of our Ortus Solutions major libraries like Pullbox, Testbox, Contentbox, Quick, QB. I even did some testing in Command Box while I was at CF Camp, like at the CLI, found another little tiny bug that Zach's already fixed as of like yesterday. So the 6.0 has a huge list of breaking changes, most of which probably shouldn't affect you. Little stuff like, member functions and what they return or something like that. But, that'll obviously take a little bit more time for people to adopt. Dan Carr doesn't want me to forget the CFS pages, the ability to have a CFM, but it's script instead of tags. There was a whole bunch of demos they did the first day of CF Camp, um, which include Java integration and all sorts of fun stuff that's in the 6.0. but definitely want to be testing the release candidate for 6.0. Zach's done a great job of documenting all the tickets, and there's a lot of stuff. Um, but for your existing apps, you should be able to get up to 5.4 without really any issues, and then start testing your 6.0, because I know they're gunning to release that as soon as possible. Because Lucy 6 has been like what, 5 years in the making. It's taken a long time, so
Yeah,
they're very motivated to finally get that out.
for sure. I mean, obviously it's a big change and everything, but even 5.4 with all those updates is great. And I mean, I just shared my screen there while you were talking, but I mean, they've got two, four, six, eight, like 10 or 11 tickets that they fixed since the beta 2 for that release candidate for 6. So they're definitely working hard. One of the tweets, uh, they had Zach had mentioned that he had basically put Misha out in the hallway and he was working away on some tickets or whatever after people giving him feedback and stuff. So having them working hard, so it's good to see. So yeah, they're
Yeah.
working.
Daniel Garcia asked if I switched my laptop back from metric to US. Maybe that's the issue.
Yeah, I wish. Okay, so I think we're back. So let's move on to webinars, meetups, and workshops, and we'll just
Wanna,
ignore the fact that OBS just crashed completely.
you wanna wait and see if people confirm they can hear us?
Sure.
Oops, if I can type.
Yes, Scott, Mishi and Misha is a different person. I think Michael Nat goes by Mishi, but I think it's Michi when they say it that way.
Yeah.
So,
I don't
Dan's
know if they can. I don't know if anyone can hear that explanation you just gave, because my YouTube still shows it buffering. Oh, Dan says he can hear us.
okay.
Well, my poor YouTube's still buffering. Yeah, so when I say Misha, I'm referring to Michael Offner from Brilo and Lucy. When I say Mishi, I'm referring to Michael Nat, who runs CF Camp. I think it's, I don't know if they only go by those nicknames. I think that's just how I've always differentiated them. I think, give or take, Michael is a common name in German or Swiss German that can be Mishi or Misha. So anyway.
Interesting. Cool, cool.
All right. Well, if
Well,
everybody's hearing us again, let's move on. Sorry about that technical difficulties, everyone.
yeah,
Gavin had to feed his hamster to turn the wheel and get his computer going again.
computer was good. OBS crashed for the first time ever. I've never had it do that, but it happens. Anyway, so blah, blah, blah. Webinars, meetups, and workshops. So, in case you missed it, we had that Gulami Bayatolov, the French dude that did not sound French, it sounded more Russian. But anyway, he did the Octoperf, the load testing tool for modern web apps, and that was last week. And if, in case you missed it, we have the recording link. So, I will share that right now. And then we also had one from John Clausen. Do you want to tell him about that one, Brad?
Yeah, this was the Taming Time series data with Stashbox and the Elk Stack. So that was on the 16th, and John Clausen showed us his Stashbox product, which is a really cool um, product that sits in the same sort of space like Sentry does, that kind of helps manage all the data and logs from your servers.
Yeah, the Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana stuff really works super well. It's crazy good. I'm really wanting to see how to set that up and get that running on my own local stuff to play with it some more. And then apparently there's a Command Box Pro July webinar coming up soon. I assume it's with you, Brad. So
It says with Brad Wood, but I'm finding about it, just now live on the air with you. So yeah, sounds fun.
I'll put
Um,
with Brad Wood.
Command, yeah,
Question
the
that.
question, put a question mark in the show notes. No, yeah, I think it makes sense to do that about now. We announced Command Box Pro at Into the Box, which is, Command Box will still be open source and free, but we're offering a professionally supported license for it. That's going to come with some extra cool features. And one of those is the multi-site functionality that I demoed into the box and that I showed my workshop attendees prior to CF Camp. And Richard Herbert also mentioned it in his Mod CFML session at CF Camp.
Cool.
So yeah, I have enough to probably do like 3 hours worth of demos. So I'm guessing I'll have to condense that down into an hour.
Yeah, and I was wondering how you're gonna do that, but anyways, good luck. The link will be coming soon. The marketing people are uploading John's session right now to CFcast, and they'll update the link on the webinar page and add Brad's there. So very cool. Adobe has a bunch of events happening, a workshop and basically a webinar every month. Actually, a couple of workshops this month, but there was one June 21st. We just missed it. There's one coming up June 28th, so tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time. So if you want to get that, I think Brian Sappi is leading that one. But if you missed last week's Adobe ColdFusion 2023 release webinar on Docker and the Google Cloud Platform with the Google Cloud Evangelist, Mark Takata and him went through that session, and it's up on YouTube already, and I posted the link in the chat. So there's a few other things there. Again, you can check it out in the show notes. And if you go to the Adobe website, you can look at all the trainings. So plenty of stuff there. But we're going to move on real quick because lots of content to cover. So CFCast, just so you know, we are releasing new content all the time. We have basically John's session coming here, and we are working on a few different series. Now, did you see Gary Knight at CF Camp? I don't think he was there, right?
No, I don't believe so.
Because he was asking about maybe sponsoring a series on CFcast. So I'm really curious what type of series he was talking about. So we have a couple in the works from Eric. He's doing Inertia JS and Coldbox Elixir. And guess what? That's what he was speaking on at CF Camp. So I think all that prep has got him in a great place for that series. So we should see that very soon. And Into the Box videos are coming to those who were attendees. And if you are not attendee, you can purchase a package in addition to your membership. The Into the Box videos will be available at around Christmas time for normal membership, but this is a premium package for those attendees or purchasers of the videos. So lots of stuff coming to CFcast, and yeah, any minute we should be seeing John's session there. Okay, conferences and training. So how did your workshops go? I know we talked about CF Camp a bunch, but how was the workshops? Obviously, Otis had 4 pre-conference trainings. Did they go well, Brad?
Orders had 2 pre-conference trainings.
Oh,
Um, we ended up kind of combining down. We had a decent number, like a typical number of people signed up for the pre-conference trainings, but basically not enough to really fully populate 4 separate trainings. We
gotcha.
may have gotten a little over our skis scheduling, trying to schedule for them. So we had one that I don't think had anybody sign up, and a second one that only had a couple. Anyway, we redistributed the attendees to the remaining 2 to have a good solid number of people in each one. So Dan Card did his I forget what it was called, but it was something about modern cold fusion stuff. I would look it up, but my computer is currently like going out to lunch. I don't know what it's doing. It's at like 100% CPU, and I'm afraid to start killing stuff. So all my browsers have locked up. I'm like, okay,
I
good
think
luck
it
with that.
was legacy code conversion to the modern
Ah,
world.
yes, that's what it was. And Dan Card had the world's most serious of unfortunate events when it comes to traveling. He tried to rely on the German train system to get him like all the way up to Munich. He thought it would be this like beautiful leisurely drive through the German countryside, and it turned into a series of canceled trains and canceled flights and delayed trains and weather delays. Anyway, Dan Card was supposed to be there like a whole day early, and he like crawled in to the hotel literally 20 minutes before his 8-hour workshop started with
Dang.
48 hours of no sleep. He like went and took a shower and then did the workshop. He was like a total trooper because his travel plans did not treat him well. But I believe he had a really great time. At his mind went really good. We had a crowd. We talked all about command box server management, server.json, how to configure servers, how to performance tune servers, and then we talked about the last half of the day, all the new Command Box Pro stuff coming up, specifically multi-site, which is an awesome feature I've been working on for like 2 months now. To basically be able to use a single Command Box server to have as many sites as you want. But unlike just like normal mod CFML, we've actually built full web server features into Command Box. So you can kick Apache or Nginx or IIS to the curb now, and you can have completely different configurations for every single site. So all the settings like virtual directories or rewrites or server lockdowns are all configurable on a per site basis now, which is a major new feature in Command Box servers, and that's what's going to be part of Command Box Pro. So I guess you can come to the webinar we're doing soon to find out more about that. But yeah, the workshops were a hit. I thought they went great.
Great. Well, we did mention earlier, whoops, I guess I can't show my screen. I was going to show some pictures. Let me try and fix that super quick here. Sorry. That's what happens when you do this stuff. There we go. That one there. OBS killed me. Anyway, so there were, like I said, there were some cool pitches. Zach got his one with Ben. There was a lot of great attendees. Look, that's a good number of people there, and I see some familiar faces: Mark, Drew, Nolan, a lot of people in there. Is that Gert? So yeah, a lot of cool stuff in the CF Camp group. But probably top notch is Ben Adele ran into Christian Bale on the way home. So his CF Camp was awesome,
What?
and he
I
even
did not see that. Did he tweet about that?
yeah, he sure did. He's like, CF Camp was amazing, but it turns out Christian Bale was on his flight. so
That's hilarious.
so yeah, so a great time was had by all. But yeah, so again, CF Camp next year, can't wait. Now that conference is coming up very soon. So if you guys are still looking for another conference here, this is a family-friendly one. So this is one that Daniel Garcia and his son are both speaking at. So basically, it's a family sit up, 4 day summer camp sit up. They've got like kids tracks and partner tracks, and then it's a full stack take a persistent community, and that's July 24th and 27th. Whoops, it says 2022. It should be 2023. I don't know where that date came from. Whoops.
You missed it. It's
Uh,
gone.
yep. So sorry about that. But yeah. So very very cool. So that conference again, July 24th through the 27th. Great conference. Daniel attended and spoke last year. Loved it. He's got the family going. And again, they have a bacon buffet with a whole pig. So can't lose there.
Can't beat bacon buffet.
Yep.
Oh, Daniel, Garcia, I think you're in the chat here. We met your French, not doppelganger, but just like the equivalent of you from France. Pierre Oliver, who goes by Poe. I've met him at CF Camp every year. He's a great guy. Programs in Cold Fusion. I never knew this about him, but he's all into like smoking meat and cooking and posting pictures of it on Facebook. He had a shirt on one day that was like, "I smoke meat and eat things. That's what I do," or something. And the next day, he had another T-shirt on about like not. It didn't use the word barbecue, but something about like cooking and smoking meat. Anyway, and I asked him about it, and it's like a huge. No, I didn't take a picture of him because I'm stupid and I never think to take pictures. But yeah, it's like he's totally into it, always posting pictures. And Dan Card and I were both like, we need to get this guy and Daniel together. They would hit it off. But anyway, so if you come to CF Camp next year, Daniel, you can hang out with Pierre and talk about all the different American and French styles of smoking meat. Anyway, I just randomly thought of that.
Too funny. Cool. Well, Adobe CF Summit West is coming up in Las Vegas, the 2nd through the 4th. Just in case you're wondering, you missed out on the early bird pricing. So the $99 season pass just went up to $199, and the professional pass, which is the conference on the 2nd and 3rd, and then the training for the Cold Fusion certification on the 4th is $299. So some good meals, good coverage there. And again, they discount it severely, right, Brad? It's ridiculous how
Yeah,
cheap
Adobe
it is.
basically pays you to go to CF Summit
Yeah.
because it costs a lot more than what you pay, and Adobe basically pays the difference. So, um, I'm glad that they do that for us because for any other human, like if Ordis was to put on Into the Box in Las Vegas, we would have to charge you like a crazy amount of money to actually just cover the cost. So Adobe makes it affordable, which is awesome.
And it looks like the speaker registration has closed. It's no longer on the website. We weren't sure when it was going to disappear, but you can also see they're empowering student coders. So you can
Yeah,
get
that's
a
awesome.
free full summit pass for Adobe Cold Fusion Summit 2023 if you're 18 years or older, enrolled at a higher education institution, and your current class schedule shows at least 12 credits or units, and have a valid student ID as your student enrollment. You're actually eligible for student pricing, which is free.
Yeah.
So
So you basically have to be a full-time college student. Now, I think there's a couple things that aren't included, like the after party. But like the keynote and all the session talks you can just go to. So that's that's really cool.
yeah, and just all you have to do is email Kishore for more information about that. So, if you know somebody that is even thinking about coding or something, and they're at college, doesn't mean they have to be a coding student. Give them an opportunity to come check it out and get a feel for it. And so this is a great way to get new people in. So it's our job to go find them and help bring them in here. So I've already reached out to someone I know, and so hopefully they're going to come. But yeah, share it. That's a great way to get the word out and get more people using Cold Fusion and CFML. And again, cheap conference and a good time at the same time. Okay. So next up, again, we did already talk about the CF Summit training. So right after that, again, conference second and third, come to our training on the 4th and the 5th, and we'll have a lot of cool things going on there. Again, it's just great time to spend, getting to know people too, and these workshops aren't once and done. We have the chat open and we make friends, and a lot of the people that are working with us now came to a training and now we're good friends with a lot of them, and so it's a great way to meet other people in the community. And again, Coldbox Zero to Hero, you're gonna do a lot of interesting stuff in there. I'm just gonna share the link, but I mean, we've sort of taken this one here. I mean, I'm just trying to think, like, didn't we meet like a lot of our patrons that way? Gary Knight was a couple of trainings. I know, like, David Levin. I mean,
Yeah, I
half
think
our
so.
speakers have met us through that type of thing. It's just it's a really good way to sort of dive deep. I mean, that's how I started with Ortus. I did a 3-day boot camp. And that's when I met Brad and Luis, and
I remember
uh,
that.
a
Was
long
that
time
CF
ago.
Objective? What conference was that?
CF Objective 2013.
2013. Wow,
Yep.
that's crazy.
I know it is. That means I've known you for almost, yeah, basically 10 years now. Crazy.
Yeah, because I don't think I'd ever heard of you before then, and then you
Yeah.
just wouldn't go away.
Yep. Exactly. So, but yeah, a lot of good stuff here. Again, there are some prerequisites, but you can check out the repo already, get an idea of the schedule and everything if you go check out that ticket. But yeah, it'll be a good session. Again, have Luis and me, and there'll probably be a couple of our Ortus team members hanging out. We like to spend some time after the conference, sort of team building and building with the community. So definitely want to do there. A decade of Gavin. Woohoo, says Dan. Yep. Just yesterday, one of my meetings, they were talking about trying to lose me. Like, it's hard to lose someone as big as me. Anyways, and into the box, the TAM, Brad. Are you gonna be
only
going
five,
back, or are you gonna like
only
hold off?
only 5 months away. So yeah, there's actually been some chatter internally in our Ortus Slack talking about planning into the box Latam. I don't know if I'm going to be there. They posted a list of Ortus people, USA speakers who were selected to join them, and I'm not on that list right now. So I do see some names of people that have never gone down there. So I think they're trying to rotate around. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
I know you always have a good
But yeah,
time.
they're already firing it up. I loved being down at Into the Box Till Tam. They had a massive crowd, and they attract pretty much people who have never heard of Cold Fusion,
Which is super
from
cool.
from Central America and around. Which the fun thing about that is those people come in, most of them students, because they give really good discounts to students just to come learn from our technologies, and we get to know who they are as possible people we could hire. Um, in the future. And those people come in with no like preconceived notions about like, oh, Cold Fusion is legacy, Cold Fusion is crap. They come in and they're like, oh, CFML, this is cool. It's some new language. Let me learn about it, right? And we show them all of our tools and show them all of our stuff. And a lot of them are excited to go back and try it. So ITB Latam is a really fun place. So if you know anybody doing CFML stuff in Central America who wants to travel to that, or just programmers who would be interested, you want to help support us, that's gonna be, I think, I see you have November 30th in the show notes. Is that
That's what I think I saw
looks like we've
today.
moved it a little earlier in the year then, because it's been in December the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's been like
Um,
fourth, fifth, somewhere around there. So it's about a week earlier. So
yeah,
probably the week after
Daniel
Thanksgiving.
Daniel Garcia asked if I would be allowed back in the country again. Um, I'm pretty certain I would be allowed. I don't know if I should go because somehow I have gotten sick the last 2 times I've gone. I never get sick when I travel, but El Salvador, like
Well, you do
it,
consume about 3 times your body weight in, was it
ceviche and
ceviche?
ceviche.
Which I
Yeah,
love ceviche too. I actually had some
I love ceviche.
not
But
too long ago.
ceviche is basically like raw seafood that's been like prepared in a special way, like with citrusy acids and stuff. But yeah, I probably eat way too much,
I was gonna say, like,
way too much seafood.
there's always a small chance of getting sick from, raw seafood. So if you eat that much, you're just basically playing the numbers wrong. You're
It's
gonna get
so
sick.
it's so good. I can't I can't hold myself back. But yeah.
Too funny.
Anyway,
Cool.
diplomatically, I'm allowed to go. Is it a good idea? I don't know. We'll see. But
Okay. moving on to blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. So we have a blog from Luis about Testbox VS Code extension. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that though in the ForgeBox. Actually, the VS Code hint, tip, and trick of the week. So I'm going to leave it there, and then I'll let you talk a little bit about the next blog post from Daniel Garcia.
I don't know anything about it. We should have Daniel talk about it. He's in the chat. It is 5 benefits of using Coalbox to build your REST API. I'm sure it was a lot more than 5 benefits, but I'm sure he just picked the top 5. Um, but a lot of people are building REST APIs these days, and Cold Fusion has its own little RESty thingy built into it. And there's some other frameworks out there, but Coalbox is the most um full of features, full of documentations, full of conventions, easiest way, in my opinion, to build a REST API. Just the routing, the security, testing, validation, and debugging, which are the things that Daniel covered, put Coldbox way out ahead of the pack in terms of getting a REST API out there with the least amount of work. So yeah, I'm scrolling through it now. This is a great blog post that just covers um, some of the top level things that what I love here is he picks stuff that basically you don't get in any of the the built-in Cold Fusion REST, right? Cold
Yep.
Fusion may have a quick and dirty way to make a REST API, but they don't have full routing, they don't have any security, they don't have validation, there's no way to test it. So yeah, looks like a pretty cool blog post. If you're interested in REST and how to do it with Coldbox, that's a great blog post to check out.
Yep. Next up, we have one from Eric Peterson on Hyper. So Hyper is a pretty cool module, and we haven't covered it for a while. So that is going to be our module of the week. So I will cover that in more detail there. But lots of cool stuff coming to Hyper. And then we already talked a little bit about the Coldbox Zero to Hero workshop in October. And Maria Jose or Maho has got a little rundown on everything you need to know there, the details, the pricing, etc. So we will share that in the chat. And then we got another one from the road show, the show box.
Yeah, Grant Copley has one called Testbox Application Templates. So a lot of you guys have probably used this if you've ever used a Coalbox create app command in command box. You just type Coalbox create app in an empty folder, it throws a little Coalbox template app. But a lot of people don't realize is that uses our default template, which used to be called the modern script template or advanced script. But we actually have a whole bunch of template applications you can create with that command that a lot of people don't know about. We have one that shows how to use Elixir. We have one that shows how to do a REST application. We have one that shows how to do REST but broken up into modules. We even have a super simple application template you can do. It's just like a bare bone Coldbox app because we have a lot of stuff in our default Coldbox app. It's like here's a Docker file, here's a Docker Compose, here's a CF config, here's a VS Code settings file, here's a CF format, like everything you could possibly want, and that can be a little overwhelming. So we even have like a super simple template that's like here's the bare minimum files it takes to make a Coldbox application, and you can go from there. So Grant's blog post basically just kind of walks through a few of those really common ones and shows you what they do. So that's a really good blog post.
Yeah, especially if you're looking for the differences between 6 and 7, you can go pull up the
Hmm.
new version and sort of, diff that. And I think the way Luis did them, we have versions of them too, so you can actually see the previous versions with the release tag and, go and diff
Right.
them and see what
Yeah,
sort of
yeah. So every
changed.
time we have a major release of Coldbox, we update all of our sample apps, and I think we change the version numbers of the sample apps to be the major version of Coldbox they correspond to. I think so.
That's the
That
way we
way,
try to do it. There does get a little more complicated when the major version of Coldbox uses this major version of CB Security, but CB Security has a different version in this app versus. So it's one of those things where, yeah, we
yeah.
have all the pieces, but it does get more complicated. We're talking about like, do we want to talk about peer dependencies like JavaScript? And we said no, let's just not talk about this anymore. But there's a lot of great template updates, so go check that out. And then Alan Quinlan, what we mentioned, another road show. We have the Async Your Future with Coldbox 7. So he's got a cool way to take your lightweight application and add a little bit more to it with some large data sets and everything, and how async can help you with that. And so that's a great blog post for maybe getting started or thinking about using asynchronous stuff from Coldbox 7. And then I think I should share my screen here, but this is the tweet I was telling you about how they put Misha in the hallway and made him work. So I thought,
If that's the tweet I'm thinking about, he wasn't actually in the hallway. He was actually in the corner of the room where the sponsors were.
okay, at least for you. But he was
Oh
basically,
no, that's not the right tweet.
that's not the one you were thinking of.
Oh, there's a tweet that shows Misha like down on the like sitting on the ground with his laptop in front of him.
Oh, I didn't
Um,
see that one. Oh well, we'll have to go through the
well,
pictures and find it.
he probably was on the ground doing work for a while because I was sitting next to him for a while out in the hallway. It's amazing how many bugs like get fixed quickly at conferences. It's the same way into the box, and it was the same way at CF Camp. Because Misha's there, and I can be like, "Hey, Misha, I just ran into this bug in Lucy's 6," and we just like both look at the same laptop screen, and we're both typing, and we just like find it and we fix it.
Well, it's
Um,
way easier to reproduce it when you've got it on your machine still. So it's so much
right?
easier to
Yeah.
transmit that communication across. But yeah,
Oh yeah.
too funny. Cool, cool. Well, we also have a blog from Ben Adele. So on his way back from CF Camp, he was listening to a Ruby podcast. They talked about compacting arrays. Do you know what compacting arrays means, Brad?
I saw his tweet about it. No, I don't, and I haven't read his blog post about it just yet.
So I guess it's meant to go and take all those undefined indices or nulls out of it. You know how you can sort of say, hey, I want an array of 20 items, but you don't actually have 20 items in there yet, and everything's kind of empty. We don't usually do that in Cold Fusion. We just add something to it. We don't set the size of an array like a lot of other languages would in the old days. So
Interesting. I mean, I assume this would be like just an array reduce where you would just not return null values.
yeah, or you
Oh, I see.
filter, yeah,
You're right. He's using filter, which is actually even less boilerplate.
yeah.
I mean,
Anyway, that's
I don't do that often enough. I'm not sure why I would need like a function to do it, but it's pretty cool. I mean, and
it's hard to do it without null support, and if you don't like size your array. And like in the old days, you'd have to say, I want an
yeah,
array of size 20, and then I'll put some items in it, and that would be more of an issue. But
right. So, I mean, in typical Ben the Dell fashion, he has the the entire function is like 30 lines or 20 lines, has 15 lines of comments. The actual code is only about 5 lines, but the irony is this could have been 1 line, right? All you you just need return input filter, and then since all he's doing is returning a single value, he doesn't need the curly braces in the body. That's just boilerplate. So you get rid of the body of the curly braces. You don't even need the return inside the closure. All you need to do is just filter return not as null value. So like this is literally a one-liner, which is why I probably wouldn't be enough for me to even bother making like a reusable function for like what's basically like 10 characters of code. But it's an interesting idea. I've never heard it called compacting. I just would have said remove all the nulls in the array. That's what I would call it.
yeah, and so
Um,
but Dan's saying that the gist of this is that Lucy filters on the filter function, but Adobe doesn't.
but I don't know what that means. Lucy filters on the filter function. You'd
I
have
guess
to.
I guess Lucy CFML naturally filters them out when you're calling filter.
Oh, well,
It
hold
just
on. There is a bug that I'm aware of in which some of the CF engines ignore null values, and I
mm,
think it's actually a bug and they shouldn't do it. He may be thinking about that because I've run into this before with when you're like doing each or something with an array, and each will just like yeah, that's what it is. Because I thought it was Lucy that did it, but if you did like array dot map,
it does,
right,
yeah.
and you had like five array indexes, map is always supposed to give back an array of the exact same size as the input. But a couple of the CF engines have basically bugs, in my opinion, where if two of those values were null, you would only get back 3 items, which is totally crap behavior.
Yeah.
There's tickets in for that. I just don't know if they're fixed because CF engines never fix the stuff that's truly annoying.
Yeah, so
Um,
that is Lucy that does that. And so yeah, interesting.
Yeah, Lucy needs to fix that crap. But as far as I know, that's nothing that's actually the way Cold Fusion should work. That's honestly just some crummy implementation of some of the member functions.
Yeah. We also had another blog post from Andrew Dixon, so he was there as well. So these are some of the things he got from the conference that weren't new, but he hadn't come across before. And so some of these things like Lucy startup listeners, so in the server CFC and the web CFC, you can actually listen for things. The CF admin tag, which I'm surprised, I thought that was pretty common knowledge
Well,
around
Lucy's
there.
always had a CF admin tag. Are they making it no longer experimental?
I don't know. It's
Because
documented.
the CF admin tag has always been part of Lucy. In fact, the entire Lucy administrator is powered entirely by the CF admin tag. But Misha's response to that has always been, "It's undocumented. Don't use it. I may change it at any time." Is basically what the CF admin tag has been. So I'm actually curious if they're saying, okay, because the Lucy's thing was always don't use CFadmin, use the administrator API. And of course, the whole joke about that was that only a fraction of functionality was ever put into the stupid administrator API, which was like, well, yeah, but that doesn't really work. But I'm curious if they actually just decided to document and kind of lock down the feature set of CFadmin to the point where just like, hey, use this, because I think that would make sense. Most of
Yeah.
it doesn't change.
The note says, since several people asked us to document the CFM tag, we're publishing it here already so that you can have a look at the actions and the attributes as well. There's the examples available. Doesn't say
I mean,
it's fully documented, or it doesn't warn you not to use it or anything. It just, so it's, I
well,
don't know who did it either. So it's,
I'm sure Zach probably did. I mean, click on the GitHub link and you can see who the
yeah,
blame of the file is, but it sounds like something Zach would do. I mean, I've oftentimes opened up the Lucy administrator CFM code because I know it contains examples of literally everything the CFadmin tag does. So if I'm like, how do I add a data source with the CFadmin tag? I just pull open the Lucy administrator code for adding data sources and I look and see, where its calls of the CFadmin tag are.
so
I think that's a
Met-
good thing. I mean,
Microsoft added some
oh, well, that's cool.
typos. Yeah.
All right, well,
Well, that's from various folder from Rilo. Wow. So they copied it from the Rilo stuff. But that was 6 years
interesting.
ago.
I didn't think it had ever been documented.
Yeah,
Maybe somebody did
it's
that a
in,
while ago.
yeah, 6 years ago. Apparently,
Well,
Microsoft did it.
so I don't know if Misha's changed his stance on I can
Doubt
change
it.
this at any time and I can break it and that'll be your problem. But there's the docs, I guess, if you want to use it.
Yep.
Good luck.
Well, I know, Brad, you got to take off for a meeting here, so I got it. You have to run. So everyone say bye, Brad, and I'll finish up the rest of the podcast here.
Well, I got a couple minutes.
Okay. Well,
We,
then
we go real quick.
let's jump. So find a job. We got 3 jobs listed this fortnight, this couple of weeks. So Trilogy Federal LLC posted a job on June 27th, a full-time web developer, Cold Fusion at Arlington, Virginia. So we got a little bit of information on there. You can go check out that job up on getcfmiljobs.com. But this one was interesting. So we got a full-time senior Windows Cold Fusion administrator part-time. I don't know how that works. But
That doesn't seem correct.
yep. So apparently the Gap Solutions looking for somebody there in Herndon, Virginia, and then let's see, we got a senior Java with Cold Fusion developer remote. So
I'm
there's
curious if they're moving from Java to Cold Fusion or from Cold Fusion to Java, or if they just use both of them.
yeah. I mean, look at that spec list, Brad. This is a kind
Yeah,
of
most of
an
it
interesting mix, isn't there?
most of it seems to be just straight up Java, not really related to Cold Fusion, but
Yep. I mean, they're obviously looking for some web technology, some relational database stuff, Postgres, DB2, Oracle, SQL, ORM, Hibernate, Spring. But yeah, it does sound very Java-y, especially with the Access, XML, JAXP, all those other weird acronyms. I don't even know what they mean. So lots of stuff there. But so if you're a Java person who's got some Cold Fusion chops, maybe that one will be good for you too. And you guys can go check out more information up on getcfmiljobs.com. Or look in the Slack channels. We got find a job in the Slack channel. Okay, ForgeBox module of the week, Hyper 7. So Eric is a stickler for the Simver. So there's been a couple of breaking changes. Even though they're minor, they're still considered breaking changes. So he's up to 7.1 now. I think he was last year at this time it was 3.6. So it's definitely not every year we release a major version. If he breaks something, it's a major version. So
yeah, major version bumps in an Eric Peterson library doesn't mean there's major changes. It just means there's a breaking change.
yep,
No matter how small, if it breaks something, major version bump.
yep.
Which means you're always safe to update minor versions. May or may not be safe to update a major version.
Yep, for sure. And there was a blog post there. And so in the blog post, you talked about like 6 or 7 major features. You want to give us a quick rundown of what they are?
If I can open the blog
I
post here, the
highlighted it.
hyper updates right here.
The right above you, the little bullet points.
Oh, you put them in the show notes. Sorry.
Trying to make it easy for
Yeah.
you.
So there's a new documentation site for Hyper. He has an as XML. method, which I think is the same as the JSON, except for it's XML, that a JSON. That's kind of handy. Head and options shortcut methods. He has some more accurate status codes. I don't know what that means, but it sounds interesting. Easier custom hyper clients and the ability to fake requests. I bet that's useful for unit testing.
Yeah, for sure. I'll just show the blog post real quick for those who are watching. But yeah, the more accurate status codes was, I guess you got a 402, a 502 bad gateway versus a 408 request timeout response. Previously, they're all 504s, so they're trying to get a more accurate response from the underlying Cold Fusion engine. But
That's
yeah,
weird.
so
I mean,
504 is for
I would
invalid
think he was
hosts.
just returning the status code that came back from the HTTP request, and that's it.
Yeah,
Is he
so
translating it or something?
I don't know. I mean, basically, the 504 is usually for invalid hosts. Well, sorry, 502 bad gateway is returned instead of the 504 gateway timeout for invalid hosts. The 408 request timeout is if it takes too long. The 504 is basically if it's not one of those. So anyway, it's really cool.
Weird.
I do like the fact that you have this stuff here. The faking and everything else. And I know that Eric's been doing a lot of work with AWS, and so that's probably why he's got the XML stuff. Because depending on what you're doing, sometimes you got to drop down to that, or if you're using a JDK, you have to mess with Java sometimes. So anyway, but yeah, lots of cool stuff in Hyper. It makes your life easier. It's a fluent builder experience for HTTP requests and responses, and it makes it basically wraps up the CF HTTP and gives you a bunch of helpful helpers on top of it. Helpful helpers instead of those unhelpful helpers. But yeah, so Hyper is pretty cool. And again, if you're working with APIs, it's great because you can lock in, keys, you can lock in, base URLs, and then you just need to make a small change when you're calling it. And the custom hyper builders are great for that. You just say, this is what I need to communicate with this API, and then your call just needs the little bit of the URL on the end and any params you're posting, but all the keys and everything are already sort of locked in that wirebox mapping for you. So
Right, yeah. Hyper is what CFHTTP would be if it was a nice fluent DSL with all the helpers you want. It is really great whenever we're writing an SDK that wraps around an API and you want to be able to make, API calls that are all have the same sort of like authentication tokens every time, the same headers, but they just change out the URL they're hitting. Hyper makes it really easy to sort of build these like reusable requests that just get rid of a lot of the boilerplate. We use it a lot internally.
yeah, it's great. I mean, for those who use a lot of JavaScript stuff, it's a lot like Axios. You can do a lot of the same things as you can with Axios. So it's very
Yep.
cool. Definitely worth checking out. Highly recommend it. Next up, we have a VS Code hint, tip, and trick of the week. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a blog post released from Luis, and it's talking about testbox TDD BDD support in VS Code. And so I'm going to share the link here and share my screen. But I know we've done a lot of work with our VS Code extensions, and we've been updating them a lot. And so this has all the new cool features to allow you to work with testbox 5 too. So man, that graphics is looking pretty cool. But yeah, so it adds support for testbox version 5. And so that's great for working with all the new things. There's also some default shortcuts for running and jumping to a spec command. So you can actually say, describe or it should be created. So you can jump down your file to find the right tests and everything. And then some new commands for running test harness too. So you can run the bundle, run the harness, run the previous test, or run the spec. So pretty cool.
So
And
I'm curious here. One of the examples says to use Shift Command T, which is obviously something only a Mac person would run. So what is the equivalent key combination on a Windows computer? Since 85% of Cold Fusion developers use Windows.
so I think command is usually the
That
Windows
Alt or
key.
is that Windows?
It's usually Windows, I
So it would be
think,
Shift Windows T.
or maybe it's Control, but I'm not sure. You'll have to try it out. We should probably add that to our docs because it's a good question. So again, some improvements too. They're really working hard on optimizing it, making it more functional, and yeah, a lot of cool changes there. So if you're using Testbox, check that out. If you're not using Testbox, you should be. And then VS Code, a lot of cool things. We got a Codebox extension as well, but these extensions really do help you working with things. And the scaffolding features for the tests alone is worth it. So if you want to, boilerplate up your tests, that can definitely help with that, and a lot of
Yeah,
other
I mean,
cool
I never
things too.
type out all that boilerplate by hand, and I used to just go copy and paste it from another spec, but you don't need to do any of that when you have the test box extension installed. Just use those shortcuts. It's great.
Exactly. So go check that out. And then last but not least, our Patreon supporters. So we've got 40 Patreon supporters right now
Yay.
supporting us. And a lot of them, our top Patreons, which we'll read through the names shortly, a lot of them are bronze packages and up, which means they get that ForgeBox Pro account and the CFcast subscription. And they also get the profile badge on the community site, which is available for all Patreons. And then we have a private forum on the community website, and we have a private Slack channel just for them on the Box Team Slack. So lots of cool benefits for being a Patreon supporter. And if you want to find out more about it, they can go check out the link that I'm about to post. I think it's Brad's turn, since he's well cultured now. You can try and mispronounce these names and tell
Oh,
us
I'd love
who are
to.
our favorite top
Our
patrons.
top patrons, Gavin, are John Wilson of Synaptrix, Tomorrow's Guides, and Jordan Clark, Gary Knight, Giancarlo Gomez, David Bellinger, Dan Card, Jeffrey McGee of Sunstar Media, Dean Maunder, Kevin Wright, Doug Kane, Nolan Irk, who I just saw at CF Camp, and Abdul Raheen.
Very cool. So thank you very much to all of our top patrons, and thank you to all the other patrons. Our other patrons, we got a lot of great patrons out there. We can't read all of them. We run out of time. We're already over our time as it is. So we just read through the top patrons. But you can find out more on the Auto Solutions website. Under the About Us tab, we have a sponsors link. So you can find out more about our top patrons, and all of our patrons are listed there. So thanks again for joining me, Brad. I know that your jet lag is hitting you
Yep.
hard and trying to catch up, but go run to your client event. And thanks, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week, hopefully, for episode 200. Actually, it's 4th of July, so it won't be next week. It'll be the week after. July 11th, come back for the 200th episode. So have a good one, everybody. Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernizeordie.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.